ready?
Yeah, we're good to start whenever you are.
Hey, you can let her rip then, all right?
You are live.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our planning board meeting for February, and I think we have most of our, is Chris Fournier online yet? I didn't see Chris, but I think most of our resident members are here. Myself, I'm Councillor McLeod, Chair of the Planning, and we have Vice Chair Julie McCabe, Councillor McCabe, and Councillor Alana Yankoff, and of course, our presence is blessed with the Mayor. So moving forward, is there any declarations of conflict?
Mr. Chair, I have a conflict on item 1.
Right, okay, we'll note that. Thank you very much, Sharon. Anybody else? No. Good, okay. Approval of the agenda, I believe. Is Councillor Bernard online yet? Yes, he is. Did you want to add something under new business, Mr. Bernard?
Yeah, yes, please. Just want to have a conversation on the forecast. Get a lot of feedback there.
Okay, cool. We'll add that to new business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, outside of that, I need approval for the agenda. I need a second, moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Alana. Thank you very much. All those in favor of the agenda, please put up your hand. Okay, we're all good. Thank you very much. The adoption of the minutes. So I'll need an approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, and seconded by okay. All those in favor of the minutes. Thank you. Okay, business arising from those minutes. Anybody got anything from those minutes of Tuesday, January the 4th? I see none. Thank you very much, everyone. We will now go into reports. So today we have 3 variances, and we have a couple of rezonings, and then we're going to talk about STRs. So I'd just like to remind everybody that we do have a council meeting after this at 6, so we will be calling this meeting to adjourn around 1:45 if we can. So we're going to try and give roughly a 15-minute window for everybody to either present questions and move on. I see Councillor Yankoff has a question.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, before we begin with 231 Richmond Street, has Mr. Forbes or anyone responded to the residents that were concerned that they did not get notification of this in their mailboxes? And I just saw that it came in today around 2 o'clock, and I'm just wondering, has that been addressed? Should this be deferred? Just wanted to put it out there. It's just important that we follow process.
I'll let Alex explain that.
Yeah, it's my understanding, and Emily, and but it's our understanding that I don't know what happened with those applicants, but they were on our circulation list, so they were notified why they didn't receive their notification. But on that, they should be the ones that are indicating that that they weren't notified if they have a concern. I mean, it's a third party that's indicating that they have a concern, so maybe they do, maybe they don't, but our notification is indicating that they were sent a letter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You okay with that, Councillor Yankoff? I mean, there's not much else we could do, I guess, right?
As long as process is being followed and Alex is okay with that, then that's, as long as it's reflective on the minutes is all.
Okay, tickety-boo. Okay, so our first variance is 231 Richmond Street. Emily, I believe, is going to do the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, folks. If I'm on the line, everyone can hear me. Thumbs up. Yeah, great. And you can see my slide deck there, hopefully?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I understand time is of the essence tonight, so I'll try to move through this quickly, folks. But this one is a variance request. The applicant is 9 years, and they have submitted this variance request on behalf of the property owner, PEI Housing Corporation. The request is for two major variances to permit a new three-story apartment building, including 3 dwelling units at 231 Richmond Street. So the variance, the first one is to...
I'm on this planning meeting here, as you probably know. Getting a lot of feedback. Looks like I signed in.
Go.
Hello?
Yeah, I think
Hello?
Mr. Chair, she can keep going.
Yeah, I think Terry just.
Keep cutting out.
Sorry, just so I understand correctly, is the feedback being received on, I'm not sure who has indicated this, is anyone else receiving
Councilor Barrett.
feedback?
No, I'm okay.
Okay,
I'm fine.
okay,
Just keep going.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, Counselor, sorry about that, but I'll just proceed here. So the first major variance is to reduce the required lot frontage from 34.8 feet to 27 feet. And the second is to reduce the required side yard setback from 2.25 feet to about 1.75 feet. Again, this is at 231 Richmond Street. So just to orientate you folks quickly to this property, as you can see in the aerial view on the left and the zoning map on the right there, this property is located at the northeast corner of Hensley Street and Richmond Street. It's just south of the Polyclinic on Grafton Street and to the west of Prince Street as well. It has an area of about 2,300 square feet and a frontage along Richmond Street of about 27 feet. The depth on the property is about 85 feet as well. So this property is designated downtown neighborhood by the official plan and zoned downtown neighborhood by the City of Charlottetown zoning bylaw. It's also located in the boundary of the city's 500 lot area. So just based on observations of the site and surrounding area and looking at provincial tax assessment data, we see that adjacent lots primarily contain low to medium density residential dwellings. They're generally 2 to 2.5 stories in height, and the number of dwellings in these adjacent, or the number of units, on these adjacent lots range from about 2 to 8. And looking at the property itself, what sits there today is a 2-story dwelling. To the rear of the dwelling, there's a small shed, some green space, and a surface parking space as well. Although the property is in the city's 500 lot area, it is not heritage designated. So we find that in our GIS map, and then this was also confirmed by the city's heritage officer as well. PEI Housing Corporation has also confirmed that the existing dwelling has been vacant since about 2017 and that it's currently uninhabitable. So I'll just note as well, PEI Housing Corporation, we have a representative on the line today, Cody Clinton, and if you guys have any follow-up questions about that, hopefully Cody can respond to that. So PEI Housing Corporation has indicated that if this variance is approved, their intent is to demolish this existing dwelling in order to accommodate the new 3-unit apartment building. In terms of the proposal, we're just looking now at the site plan that was submitted by the applicant, showing the proposed footprint of the dwelling, indicating the frontage and the proposed setbacks as well. They've also submitted floor plans, which are included as attachments to the report package that you folks hopefully received, if you want to look at those in greater detail. So through the public notification process, prior to the comment deadline, which was 4:30 on Friday, we received 2 letters of support from adjacent property owners. I note that one letter did mention that it's their hope that the exterior fire escape is designed to be aesthetically pleasing with high quality material as well. And in terms of the letters of objection, one notes concern with the demolition of what they refer to as a century home, and concern with the new building detracting from the existing heritage character of the neighborhood. Another letter of objection notes concern with shadow impacts of the proposed new building on a single detached dwelling and garden a couple lots over at 237 Richmond Street. And just to quickly summarize our department's assessment of this application, we of course looked at official plan policies and objectives to verify if the proposal does support these policies and objectives, and we found that the proposal does represent compact infill development that will maximize the use of existing underground services in this area. So this is certainly supported by the official plan. We see too that the proposed footprint is generally consistent with adjacent dwellings, and the applicant has confirmed that the proposed height will conform with the DN zone maximum height requirements. So as a result, there's expected to be limited adverse impacts on adjacent dwellings. And the applicant and owner of the property has confirmed that the new units will be owned and operated by PEI Housing Corporation with rents geared to tenants' income. So this would support the official plan policy objectives and policies to enhance the range of housing options available in the city of Charlottetown. And just to look a little closer at the proposed 1.7-foot side yard setback that's being proposed on the east side of the new dwelling, we just note that this does represent an improvement relative to the existing conditions on the lot today. So when you look at the survey, you see that there is 0 side yard setback today provided from the existing dwelling to the east side yard setback. So what's being proposed, the 1.7 feet side yard setback, is an improvement. The applicant has also confirmed that there will be no window openings and non-combustible cladding will be applied on the east elevation, so along the portion of the building where the reduced side yard setback is proposed. So it's expected that this will help to mitigate any privacy impacts on the property most impacted, which is 233 Richmond Street, and also mitigate safety risks to this adjacent dwelling as well. And this will be reviewed a bit closer at the building permit stage if it proceeds there by our building officials as well. And just to note, the property most impacted by the reduced side yard setback, 233 Richmond Street, we have not yet received any comments from them through the public notification process. And I would note as well, there is an easement in favor of PEI Housing Corporation on this abutting property that's most impacted, so 233 Richmond Street, along the portion of the lot where the reduced side yard setback is proposed. And the applicant has indicated that it's their intention to maintain this easement over the adjacent lot in the future. I'll also note that given that this application involves affordable housing and that it's a new multi-residential development in the 500 lot area, the design review process does apply, and it's required by the zoning bylaw. And the application is required to meet the design standards for the 500 lot area that's set out in Section 7 of the zoning bylaw. So matters like the design and materiality of the exterior fire escape, shadow impacts on adjacent lots, and whether the exterior design will complement the existing heritage character of the surrounding area, these are all items that can be considered by the design review board, and the appointed external member of the city's design review roster at that stage. So in light of these considerations, our department is recommending that Planning Board recommend to Council to approve this request for major variances to the lot frontage and side yard setback requirements, subject to a couple conditions, one being that Design Review Board reviews and accepts the proposed exterior design, and secondly, that prior to any demolition of the existing dwelling, the owner obtains a demolition permit and submits a fire safety plan for review and acceptance by the city's fire department. So folks, that concludes my presentation. I welcome any comments or questions, and I'll also note again that the property owner is on the line, or a representative of PEI Housing Corporation is on the line if you folks have any questions for them.
Thank you very much, Emily. Very thorough. Mr. Clinton, did you want to speak first at all before answering any questions?
I think Emily did an excellent job providing a summary of the project, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I think the only thing maybe that I'll touch on, just to provide some additional clarification from Emily's comments, we did have an engineering firm complete a building condition assessment of the property before we started working with the city on this new design and these variances. And the reason that we're going with the demolition is because that engineering firm, their report indicated that it was too cost prohibitive to bring the property up to a state where it could become habitable again. I know, as Emily mentioned, it has been vacant since 2017, so there has been no residents in there for approximately the past 4 to 5 years. So that's the reason why we are looking to go forward with the demolition and looking to add some additional capacity and additional units on that property for social housing under the PEI Housing Corporation.
Thank you very much, Cody. Yeah, certainly is.
Just a point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I just looked at the email from one of the opposing residents. Did all the planning board members get those yays and nays letters, Ellen?
I'm pretty sure they did.
I think the initial letters up until the deadline were forwarded to the board. There's just one letter that was just received today, just a few minutes prior to the public meet, prior to the planning board.
From the resident on Prince Street?
Yes.
Okay.
So if that will be considered part of the package, it will be sent out to the board. But everything that was within the deadline for submission has been circulated to planning board.
Can we send that out to them right now?
I'll let Alex.
We got that letter.
And now we did, but the planning board members, Bob Kenny, Rosemary Hebert, Chris Fournier, I think it was only sent to us, Mr. Chair. That's why I raised the point of order.
Well, I think Ellen read it off though at the start of the meeting. Did she not?
Not the letter that I read from.
Not the letter, but she. No, maybe not. Okay.
Anyways, Mr. Chair, if you want to make the call on that, we can continue. But it's just that, as you know, the resident on Prince Street is quite detailed in her analysis, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying that it's a point of information. Maybe Councillor Yankoff had something to add.
Yeah, maybe so.
Well, I had said that I was just concerned that the emails that had been sent had not been addressed and still have been left unaddressed. I think personally, I think from reviewing this, I think it's a fantastic project. I just would hate for us to stop the process by not following the process correctly.
Yeah, and everyone had the same amount of time to get the letters in, right?
Yes.
So unfortunately, but at the same time, maybe Mr. Clinton, if you could look at those letters of people that weren't necessarily in favor or had some concerns, that you could keep those in mind and moving forward, and maybe planning staff could also reply at some point with an answer to the, like, I know the shadow thing, that's a tough one. When it fits the zoning, right, it's kind of tough. We can't always be in control of what happens around us, and unfortunately, I think that's what's happening here.
Mr. Chair, it's Alex here.
Yes?
Yeah, I guess it's up to the board whether it, because the letter, we either are going to recognize the letter or we're not going to recognize the letter, because it's kind of in no man's land here. So I'll defer to the board, but I would say that if you're going to recognize the letter, to your point, then if the letter is in play and then the board members don't have it, then it gets into a procedural issue. So I'll defer to the board, but the letter is technically late. So you've got half the board is aware of the letter, half the board isn't. Then staff need direction as to whether you want to consider that letter. But keep in mind, if you deviate, then you're deviating from the process in regard to when the letters come in, and then others will ask for the same. So I know it's tricky. It's only a day, but it does have implications for all of us, including the applicant who's on the line here.
That's why, Mr. Chair, that's why I raised the point of order, because this is a procedural issue, and I guess it's up to our board right now, the board, to say, let it go ahead and go forward.
Yeah,
but
as chair, as chair, I think we need to move this ahead. We can't, we veer off the path, and we're going to be veering off the path all the time. So I think we got to stay on course. That's my opinion. If anyone else has an opinion, they can surely share it. But I think we need to go forward here.
So I think it's the process. If the letter was late coming in, then unfortunately the letter was late coming in. And of all people that question process, we have to stay the course as long as process was followed. And Councillor Yankoff clarified the process was followed.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for that, by the way. Any other questions or concerns?
Bobby,
yes?
could I just ask a question on parking? I'm not clear on what's there for parking.
I guess probably Alex, you want to answer that, or Emily, one or the other?
I can hop in there. Thank you, through the chair, to Bobby. Bobby, there is one surface parking space there today, and what the applicant and property owner is proposing is to meet the required parking through a cash in lieu provision. Given that this property is located in the 500 lot area, our bylaw recognizes there's restrictions to providing parking in the downtown from a lot size perspective, and in this case it's also very close to the intersection, so there's a safety concern as well. And we see the size of the lot is pretty restricted too. So as a result, the applicant and property owner are proposing to provide cash in lieu, which is acceptable under the regulations of the zoning bylaw. And there's a requirement of $6,000 in our schedule of fees per required parking space as well. These folks have 3 dwelling units, and they're providing affordable housing. So it's 0.75 spaces required per unit. And they would provide a proportional cash in lieu. And if you have any required clarification on that, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions or concerns, folks?
Just, Mr. Chair, go ahead, Councillor Yankoff.
Councillor Yankoff, go ahead.
Sorry about the dogs in the background. Just, I know that it's a provision that we allow for the cash and lieu for parking. It's certainly, we are running out of parking spaces in the area. So I just wanted for us to be mindful that yes, that is a provision that we provide, and it's in the process. But I don't know where they're going to park. But anyhow, I just wanted to observe that. Like I say, I think this is a wonderful project, but the parking does concern me.
Just maybe my comment there, I think Emily could probably fill in some of the gaps as well, but I know we did in our original design, in our discussions with the city, we did have some parking availability off Pensley, but as Emily mentioned, it was kind of cited as a safety concern with the lot because it is so close to that Henley Street Richmond intersection. So I think in the city's review, it was kind of requested that we look at eliminating those parking spaces because of that safety concern.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, it is an acceptable choice under the bylaw, and I think that if this is a greater conversation for council probably than it is planning board, yeah, unfortunately. But so, any other questions or concerns?
Just one point, Mr. Chair. I think Cody Clinton. Cody, you know the history of that house. It is a century house.
I'm not aware of the history of the house. No, I know it doesn't have in our evaluation and working with city officials. I know it doesn't have a heritage designation, but I don't know if it's a century house. I don't know the answer to that.
No, it was the home of the Hopkinson family, Ormy Hopkinson. That's where they grew up, and when the mother passed away, I think it was through Veterans Affairs, they took back the house. Anyways, I never thought it was a century house. Ellen, could we find out if it is, and just have that for council when we meet on the 14th?
Sorry, folks, it's Emily here. I just wanted to quickly note that I did confirm. I looked at the city's GIS data, and it indicated there is no heritage designation that applies to this property. And I also have email confirmation from the city's heritage officer that this is not a heritage designated property. So just for the record, I'm just noting that. Thank you.
It's just that in the email from the resident on Prince Street, I think she referred to it as a century home. I just wanted to find out if that was the case. So just something to look at for meeting of council on the 14th. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good, thank you. And just to note that as well, that you know, they did look at the home as whether it was fit to be saved or not, and I think Mr. Clinton said that the engineers deemed it not to be worth saving, but unfortunately, right, that's the trouble when they're left derelict for so long. It's hard to reverse them. Okay, any other questions, concerns? I see none, so I guess I'm going to be looking for a motion. What's on the floor is for us to approve, to recommend to council to approve the request for the two major variances. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Yankoff, that the two variances be approved. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, and against? See none. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. That's approved. You got that, Ellen?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Emily. Okay, moving on. Number 2 is 351 North River Road. PIN number 1014224 and 373415. I believe Laurel is going to take this one as a major variance request.
I think Laurel, you're on mute.
Oh. Yeah. You don't see her either, yeah.
Can everyone hear me now?
We can, Laura, yeah.
Okay, good. I guess I was muted. So this is a frontage variance to create a flag lot at the property located at 351 North River Road, right here. And it's two properties. So 351 North River Road is here,
Laura,
and then there's the back.
Excuse me, Laura,
yes?
we don't see anything on our screens.
Goodness. Let me see. Just a sec.
You might have to share your screen first.
Oh, I did. Can you see it now?
No.
Nope.
Interesting. I'm clicking the share button. Is it popping up now?
No. No. And you're coming up just as Laurel, right? Not as Laurel Palmer Thompson. Maybe is that your phone you're working on? There you go.
There it comes.
It's coming there.
Oh, there, we got it now? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
you're up and on it.
Okay, good. We're ready to roll. So, this is a frontage variance to create a flag lot, at 351 North River Road. It consists of two properties. This property is 351, and then the back portion is the vacant property, and that's the property that's in question tonight. The purpose of the variance is to subdivide a portion of 351 North River Road to create a 25 feet of road frontage along the street. So I'm just going to flip to this. So this would be the portion that would be subdivided out of 351 North River Road, and it would be consolidated with this back portion. The strip of land being subdivided, it will extend along the south property boundary of 351 North River Road, and it'll give access to this back piece of property, so it has road frontage and access. So the reason this has been requested is because the applicant is planning to construct a single detached dwelling on the property. So in accordance with the major variance section of the bylaw, notification letters were sent to property owners on January 14th within 100 meters of the property. We sent 40 letters out, and the time up for response was Monday, February 7th. We received 3 letters in response to our notification letter. 2 letters were in support, and there was 1 letter signed by 6 residents on Madison Avenue. The letter didn't state that it was in opposition. It just it stated some concerns and indicated some things that they wanted complied with if the variance were approved. So the letter stated objections to people walking through the park, the parkland past Madison Avenue, this little path here. The driveway to the property, residents indicated should be on the opposite side of 351 North River Road. Right here is what they're suggesting, so that it wouldn't disturb the residents on Madison Avenue. And they also requested a 10-foot fence be placed along the property boundary here. So I just wanted to let everyone know that there isn't enough setback there to create the driveway on this side of the property. The history of the property, some of you guys may remember that in 2019 there was a request to rezone this property from R2S, low density residential, to R3 medium density residential. And the proposal was to demolish or move the single detached dwelling, this one right here at 351 North River Road, and consolidate these 2 lots together to create a townhouse development with also 1 semi-detached dwelling. So the proposed townhouse development, it was planned to be a stacked townhouse development, and they were proposing 1 semi-detached dwelling. I think it was a total of 13 units at the time they were proposing. So the proposal, it received opposition from residents on Madison Avenue. They stated that they had concerns that there were wetlands on the property, I believe, right around this area. And following the public meeting, given the residents' concerns, Planning Board deferred the application until the province was able to determine the wetland and delineate it. The applicant was supposed to come back with that delineation, but we did not hear back from the applicant, and there was never a decision made on that application. So the vacant lot right now, this lot is approximately 1.62 acres. It was originally part of 351 North River Road, this property. It was all one piece at one time. In 2007, a subdivision was approved to sever this back piece off, off the parent parcel. And the subdivision was approved without having the required road frontage, and therefore it was rendered a landlocked parcel. So at that time, the adjacent property to the north, this one right here, it was owned by one of the business partners that owned this property. So 2 people owned the properties, and they were planning on a higher density development at the time. But for some reason, the properties, they weren't consolidated, and neither properties have been developed to date. The development that was proposed didn't move forward. So the CDA land to the north, this property here, is currently vacant. There was a comprehensive development proposal approved on this property in the early 2000s for multi-unit dwellings, and that plan still stands until the developer comes in and decides to amend it or change it. But currently there is a proposed development that's been adopted by council for that property. At the current time, at that time, the current R2S zoning on the property for this property was only permitted for single detached dwellings, and 25% semi-detached dwellings. So when this property was subdivided a number of years ago, you could develop semi-detached and single, but only 25% of the lots could be semi-detached. But in the fall of 2018, our zoning and development bylaw was amended, and they changed the R2 zone at the time to allow all lots within an R2S zone to be 100% semi-detached lots. So when this property was subdivided, at that time, the majority of the lots would have been single detached dwellings. So it did allow the density to double. The property is located in a mature neighborhood, mixed density neighborhood. There's residential. It consists of community care facilities, apartment buildings, semi-detached dwellings, and single detached dwellings, all in this within this area. And there's some community care multi-unit north of this area. There's also an elementary school and a high school that's within a 15-minute walk to the property, and north of the road, it's located on a public transit route. There's a potential for the property to accommodate semi-detached dwellings, and excuse me. However, for this to happen, an access road from 365 North River Road, this property, would have to be built to public standards, and that would require 365 North River Road and this property to be developed either in tandem or this property to be developed first with a connector provided. So it's questionable with the current cost of construction if the acreage would yield enough density in semi-detached dwellings on the subject property to warrant road construction. And excuse me, the proposal that's currently before the board to create the flag lot, it's covered in section 46.123 of the bylaw. And that bylaw talks about allowing a flag lot if there is never an ability for an extension of a future street road network to provide the required street frontage from the rear of the property. And in the case of a landlocked parcel, council may approve by recommendation of planning board or flag lot. So, excuse me. So the bylaw states that the flag lot can be permitted if there is no hope for any kind of road connection in the future. And in this instance, there is potential to gain access to this property from 365 North River Road once development occurs. But when 365 North River Road is developed, a public road, it would be required to provide that connector. And staff questions with the current proposal, if it is the highest and best use of the property, to just construct a single detached dwelling on this property with the current pressure for housing. From a planning perspective, we like to look at the highest and best use of a property with its zoning, and technically a single detached dwelling isn't the highest and best use of the property with that amount of land. However, we have to also consider if it's economically feasible to develop a subdivision. And if it would be it's questionable if it would be viable from an economic standpoint. So the reason why we're saying that is because of the location of the property along the water course. The water course and wetlands does take up a buffer area, so that would encompass like a good deal of the property. So in terms of density for a parcel of this size, generally we wouldn't consider a single detached being the highest and best use, but it's also a compatible use if you look at the the subdivision on Madison Avenue. These are all single detached dwellings, so a single detached dwelling on this property is a compatible use. So when residents developed in Madison Avenue, they developed with the understanding that this property would be developed as single detached dwellings as well. Oh, excuse me, can you just, can I hang on 1 minute? I just need to get a glass of water.
Sure thing.
Sorry about that. The air's really dry in here. We'd also like to note that this Parkland Connector, there was a few comments raised in the letters from the residents, and one of the things that the residents on Madison Avenue requested was a 10-foot fence along this boundary, and we can't really require a 10-foot fence if a single detached dwelling is built on this property because these aren't incompatible uses. We would require it if it was medium density being built on this property to separate, to provide some segregation between the low density and the medium density. Not that they're incompatible, but it just offers a bit more privacy between the two types of development. Also, the residents commented on the Parkland Connector, and they were saying that people were illegally walking on this connector. That connector was deeded to the city when Madison Avenue was subdivided, and it was constructed as part of the subdivision to give people access to the shore. It was the dedication that's required through subdivision when a property is subdivided. So it's staff's opinion that the subject property has the potential to support additional density, which would provide housing options in the neighborhood. However, without knowing the actual developable area outside of the wetland on the site, it's difficult for staff to recommend the most appropriate use. However, if the variance were approved, it would allow the flag lot to be brought into conformance with the bylaw. Because right now the property is landlocked, and by creating this 25 feet of frontage, it will make it conforming to the bylaw as opposed to the way it has been for the past 20 years or so, just sitting there without proper access. In addition to single detached dwelling use, it would be more in line with the properties that are located on Madison Avenue, and it would be in line with what was approved prior to 2018. So I've listed some positive, neutral, and shortcomings in the report, which was there for you to review. Overall, staff estimates if the property were to be developed, the maximum amount of units we're calculating would be approximately 8 to 9 units for 4 building lots. So depending on the area occupied by the wetland, that could also reduce that down some again. So it really is debatable if it would be economically viable for the property to be developed for a semi-detached subdivision. It would be more viable if it were to be developed for higher density development. That would work, but you would be into a rezoning application, and that was applied for in 2019, and it didn't receive a great deal of support. So staff, we also feel that the wetland area should be delineated before a final decision can be made on the placement of the structure on the site. So right now they're showing the structure about here, but I think that's very preliminary. Before we would approve building plans or any kind of construction approval, we would need to know exactly where the wetland is and a better site plan. So given the current parcel is landlocked, allowing the variance to bring the property into conformance, and staff are recommending approval of the variance subject to the wetland being delineated and designed in accordance with the wetland buffer and subject to a final PIN survey plan. So are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Laurel. I don't at this point, but there might be someone, I believe if Judy and Trevor Pye are online, they might have a question. If they are, they feel free to ask the question.
Hi there. As Laurel mentioned at the very beginning when she began to speak, the residents are not necessarily opposed to a building, a single-story building, one property on that particular piece of land. Big improvement from 15, three levels of townhouses that would never have worked, and that was why that back in 2019 never went through. I think the concern and the reason for the request, not by us, I have to say, but by one of the other residents, and we agreed with it, we thought it was a good idea, was that the fence would be actually a benefit really for the people who build on that property, because as I think everybody maybe on the council knows, that back property has been vacant. It does still have a work building that went into disrepair, and therefore children were using it. It was vandalized. There was people walking down that through Madison, down the road, parking their cars, going down there, going onto that property and using it when they were trespassing, basically. So the fence, in a sense, was to hopefully stop that happening for the people who are now going to build. As I say, the plans that you've received there just show that proposed building. The work building is being currently renovated quite substantially. My understanding is that the owner is hoping to use that as a garage. But the fence really was to stop what has happened in the past happening. But as I say, we personally are in support of having this one property to be built there. But as I say, we understand, because obviously there is an exit on the other side of where the flag lot is proposed, but I know Laurel has said there isn't enough space to build something like a fire engine or truck to get through. So that's why it's gone on to the other side. So I don't know if you have any other comments. But apart from that, we are in support of this, but it would be, I think, a good suggestion to have the fence there, if only from the point of view of the people who are going to start living there, because people do use that as a cut through. They're consistently walking across where our property is and our next doors, and they cut through in order to get up onto North River Road. So that's the reason for the fence suggestion.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments and for taking time to be with us today. Any other comments or questions, folks?
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify that there is no way under the bylaw to require a fence. That will be up to the property owner if they choose to do so. However, we wouldn't want to see that Parkland Connector cut off from, access because it was put there so that people could access the shoreline. There is a reason why that was there. And in truth, if this property were subdivided for additional units, the requirement for a connector along this property and then to the property to the north would be required when subdivision happened. So that was brought up, when we were talking about, one property or this whole property being used for just one house.
Okay. Thank you very much, Laura. Any other questions, concerns, folks?
Yes, I'd just like to what Lauren just said. The pathway connector that runs between ourselves at 21 Madison and the proposed property, that's the one, yeah. You can't actually get down to the beach anyway, because the wetland stretches from between the property mentioned and our own. We actually, when we built, had to change our size of house and direction of the build to take the wetlands into account.
Also the access
Yeah.
extension boardwalk.
Yeah.
It wouldn't impact on the application for this building, as I say, because it would have to be built on the other side of the tree line, simply because of the wetland scenario.
And the stream.
And the stream that's there, which is the main water pipeline going out from the whole of the Madison Avenue properties. So we would say that I can't see why Lauren is saying that it would impact on that. because I don't see that happening. I can't see that happening.
The fence impact on the path?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
that's right, because the
We don't believe it would.
would be on the other side of the trees, on the property that the potential owner has. That was where.
Yeah,
she
but
was-
it would depend on what's negotiated with this property, because originally there was supposed to be a pathway that went all the way up through and connected to the city's Roots for Nature and Health path that would be up here. So when this property gets developed, there will be a path required, and if this were to be subdivided, we would have required a path along here. So it will be up to Parks and Rec to decide how they want to manage this whole connector in here. If it'll be something where they will build like a boardwalk or something down here, or if they will relinquish it at some point. But that's up for debate. So, but what I'm saying is we cannot require a 10-foot fence for the property owner to build a 10-foot fence along this boundary. There's no requirement under the bylaw for that.
But couldn't it be just as a recommendation?
I can't see how we could recommend for that, no, because it's not a requirement under the bylaw. These aren't incompatible uses between these two properties. They're both single detached dwellings, and this property as well. It's up to the property owner if he wants the 10-foot fence on his property if the variance is approved. Now, if this was being developed as a multi-unit development, we could require a 10-foot or a 6-foot fence at least. But we can't require a private single-family dwelling owner to build a 10-foot fence.
I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you, Laurel. Any other questions or concerns, folks? Any board members got anything to say? Anything nice? Everybody good? Okay. Given our discussion here, the planning staff have recommended that we go ahead with this. So if so, I'll need a mover and a seconder. Don't worry, I won't bite.
I'll move that we accept staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Alan. And a seconder,
I'll
please.
second it.
Seconded by Basil Hambley. All those in favor, please put up your hand. And all those against. I see one. So thank you very much, everybody. That will be recorded. And to the pies, thank you very much for your comments and time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're up. Oh, sorry.
Terry, I don't have anything else on the agenda, so I'm just going to sign off and
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you very much, Laura.
My proposal. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. 184 Great George Street. And we will try to speed this up as best we can. We are going to run out of time here, folks, so I don't mean to rush it, but at the same time, we do have to get it done. So this is a request for a major variance, pin number 346312, and I believe we got Robert online to do the present.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone see the presentation?
No,
And
we're
can you hear me?
seeing the screen.
Oh,
We're seeing the faces.
okay. Okay, can everyone see that now?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good evening, folks. Tonight is a major variance request to extend a legal nonconforming use. That would be an automobile service station or a fuel pump at the property 184 Great George Street. That's a subject property, as you can see. It's the corner gas bar Ultramar on the corner of Great George and Fitzroy Street. and the property zone downtown Main Street. Here's some photos taken when there's less snow on the ground. Here we see the corner of Fitzroy, Great George. There's the Ultramar gas station. You can notice there's a 3-service bay garage. That is being converted into a retail convenience store. And here, standing across from Fitzroy Street, with an adjacent property, it's an inn, a commercial inn to the rear of the property there. And it's right across from Atlantic Technology Center. Anyway, so the extension of a legal non-conforming use for an automobile service station. It was an existing gas bar with underground fuel storage tanks. The applicant's also proposing to expand the retail portion of a convenience store into the service bays. The property does have sufficient on-site parking with a number of spaces included on-site, enough to accommodate both the fuel pump station as well as the convenience store. The property is also not included on the Provincial Contaminated Sites Registry, and there's been no noted history of tank leakage from the Department of Environment, and that's our folks from the province. This is kind of a brief breakdown of the calculation for parking. As you can see, with the convenience retail and classified as office space in the corner there, they would just be subject to 3 spaces, which they have on site. This is a proposed site plan. They're also proposing to replace the canopy. So with the expansion of the main building, they're also going to replace the existing canopy that's on site. The property is subject to design review because it's in the 500 lot area. There is some basic design parameters that the design would have to adhere to, which it does under some section 7 of the bylaw. That's regards the material, the consistent materiality of the building, the facade, where it wraps around because it's a corner lot, as well as proposed metal siding has to have hidden fasteners and no reflective or opaque glazing. So these are the proposed exterior elevations. So that's what the applicant's proposing to renovate. So they are changing the exterior facade. These are the floor plan renovations. So as you can see, note the floor plan at the top, the 3-service bay garage with the gas bar and wash facilities is being renovated into the finished floor plan, which you can see at the bottom schematic there. That shows the sales area and the expansion of conversion of that garage into a convenience store. And here's the finished floor plan once everything is completed, all the interior work. So for our HC comments, Department of Environment came back. There's 3 underground fuel storage tanks. They were replaced undaily throughout the decades that the gas station set up, since I believe extends back from 1960s. It's not listed on the Provincial Contaminated Sites Registry list. And then when we received notification, we sent circulation letters to adjacent property owners. We had 2 letters of support. However, one of the property owners stated that they had concerns regarding the snow removal and storage on the subject property. During spring melt, it has caused drainage issues onto their lot. So in conclusion, staff would recommend approval of the proposed major variance to extend the legal non-conforming use, which is an automobile service station. The applicant is online to take any questions, and I can as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert. If the applicant is, he's welcome to speak if he would like to. Yeah, Mr.
Hi everyone, it's Pedro Varjavand here from EXP Services, representing the owner. Robert explained the project well. Just to add to it, the reason of non-conforming use and stop of the services was due to the owner, the operator of this facility passed away and the business was transferred to his son, which due to COVID and pandemic, they couldn't keep up with the business, so they had to give the business back to the owner, which is Parkland Fuel, our client. And then Parkland decided to renovate the site, to pass it to the new operator. And this whole time span result for the closure of the site. That's why they had to close the site, and now we need to go for a major variance. That's the whole history. We're basically just skipping the existing gas bar, replacing the canopy, and just extending the retail portion to the service bay.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, folks? I would have one myself. What would your thoughts be on the snow removal and water going onto adjacent property? Is there something there that we could kind of meet halfway with?
Well, to be honest, this is an existing site. We're not changing any site work or grading or anything, so everything will be existing. So whatever was there before, I believe, is gonna be maintained.
Right. Yeah. So, like in some cases, we'll expect the owners to pull some of that snow out as the springtime comes, simply so that the neighbors don't get covered in water, right?
I can definitely speak to the owner, and I'm sure they're willing to accommodate anything needed for the snow removal to better serve the neighbors. Definitely.
Right. That's perfect. Thank you very much. Any questions, folks? We'll go with Councillor Peacock first, please. Yep. Go ahead, Lana.
Thank you, Chair. Just so I have this right, it's going to return to, if we approve this, back to a service station with a convenience store in it, because the previous one really didn't have much of a convenience store. It had about 6 chocolate bars and a bag of chips. And I'm just wondering, are they still going to have the bays to do mechanical work, or is this just a gas bar and convenience?
It's just going to be a gas bar and convenience store. No service bay anymore. So that small kiosk is going to be extended to the full store, and it's going to be a full on-the-run new branded store with the Ultramar gas bar.
Thank you. Good. You go with that, Alana? You good? Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Mr. Mayor.
Pedro.
Yes.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, one thing I can say about Parkland, after it was closed, the station was closed, it became a free parking lot.
No, we fully confirmed that, so it was not a parking lot, and the Parkland put the barriers actually once they acknowledged that, so they didn't know, because it was surprising to us too. When the city told us, we were saying, no.
Free for a while.
Yeah. No, I spoke to Bobby Hood, who works with Island Petroleum, who's connected with Parkland, and he said, no, I'll pass that on. And yes, the barriers went up very quickly, and that closed off the free parking for a lot of downtown users. But the design, we'll go back to the design review board, and I looked at Robert's presentation. Your design will be similar to what you have for Go and Run convenience store service stations currently. Is that what it'll be?
Yes. Again, the building is going to be the same. It's going to be all cladded with metal panels, gray and yellow, typical on-the-run stores across the country. And the canopy is going to be brand new canopy, same size, same location, just a brand new canopy.
Yeah. It's just this station will falls within the 500 lots, which is the historic site of Charlottetown, and Ultramar has been there. Oh my heavens! Part of Ultramar, I think it was a Texaco. It's got a long old history of staying in place. So it's I'll be interested to see what's presented, or what will be presented to the design review board when we get the final design from, I guess, from EXB, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, Len,
I think it's a great project, Mr. Chair. I think this will be a good fit for the downtown.
Downtown core, yeah. Okay. Anybody got any other comments, questions, concerns?
I would just say that having dealt there up until it closed, this will be a very major improvement. It'll be great.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. If no more questions or concerns, I'll need a motion here. The on the floor is for us to recommend to council for approval of the major variance request. Oh, Councillor Yankoff. Oh, you're approved? Okay, moved by Councillor Yankoff, seconded by Bob Kenny. All those in favor? And anyone against? I see none. Okay, thank you very much, everybody on that one. And Ellen's got the record of the vote, so thank you. We're moving on to rezonings. I guess it's 3 First Street, pin number 276501. And I believe Emily's got this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, folks. I'm back again.
You're back.
I'm back. All right. So this rezoning request is regarding 3 First Street in Charlottetown. The request is to rezone the property from low-density residential R2 to narrow single-detached residential R1N. So I think most folks here are familiar with this property from previous meetings, but just to quickly remind you, it is located just north of the dead-end terminus of First Street and northeast of the Mount Edward Road, St. Peter's Road, and Longworth Avenue intersection. So it's within about 300 meters of the 500 lot area. And as you can see in the beige color here on the zoning map, this property and properties to the north, to the east and south are currently zoned R2. And then properties fronting St. Peter's Road, shown in purple here, are zone commercial, so C1 today. And when we look at provincial tax assessment data, we see that immediately adjacent properties contain a mix of single detached and 2-unit dwellings today. So here's a street view image of the property as it was in October of this past year. So it's currently occupied by 2-story single detached dwelling. It has a detached garage, shed, and substantial landscaping area as well. It's a large property. It's about 0.35 acres in size. Has an expansive frontage of about 88 feet and a depth of about 170 feet. So, as you folks, most of you are aware already, the purpose of this rezoning request is that the property owner intends to subdivide this lot into 2 separate parcels, so shown here in the red highlight. So with a new lot containing the existing single detached dwelling that you saw in the previous image there, and a separate second lot containing a proposed new single detached dwelling that would be constructed in the future. So there was a public consultation meeting regarding this application. It was held via WebEx on February 1st, 2022. There were 2 adjacent owners who participated in that meeting. One expressed support for the application, no objections. And the other participant, an adjacent property owner, they did express concerns with items like snow removal, parking provision, property values, tree removal, and then added traffic on a dead-end street. And just to note as well that we did not receive any written comments through the public notification process regarding this application. So when we look at this property from an official plan, or the proposal, excuse me, from an official plan perspective, we see that adding a new single detached dwelling on the currently undeveloped portion of the lot, and adding this within 300 meters of the 500 lot area, it's maximizing the use of existing underground services near center of employment. So that's supported by the policies and objectives of the official plan. The proposed new single detached dwelling also represents a low intensity use of the lot, and that's supported by the low density residential designation that applies to it by the official plan. And also, when you look at the proposed footprint and front yard setback of the proposed new single detached dwelling, It is comparable to the existing dwelling on the property today and adjacent dwellings as well. Just to quickly note that the R2 zoning that applies to this property today, it does permit a variety of low-density residential uses like duplex, semi-detached, and single-detached dwellings. And there is a frontage requirement of 59 feet that applies to single-detached dwellings in the R2 zone. And if the property owner were to subdivide as they intend to into two separate lots, these new lots would not meet the frontage requirement under the R2 zoning that applies today. So that's highlighted here. It has a frontage about 43.9 feet on each lot, which is off by about 15 feet from the requirement. And the proposed new zoning, the proposed R1N zoning, which is narrow single detached residential zoning, it permits a more limited range of dwelling types, simply just modular and single detached dwellings. However, it's more so orientated to narrow lots with single detached dwellings on it. So with the proposed subdivision, the new lots would meet the frontage as well as the area and setback requirements for single detached dwellings in the R1N zone. And looking a bit more closely at the lot frontage and lot size that's proposed on these new lots, it is noted that the rear yard setback that's being proposed is about 112 to 116 feet. So it's pretty substantial, and that provides a generous landscape area and amenity space for the proposed new single detached dwelling and the existing single detached dwelling as well. So that helps to offset the more narrow lot frontages and the reduced lot size that's being proposed. And the frontage and lot size that's being proposed on the new lots is also comparable to two adjacent lots along St. Peter's Road. So that's 4 and 6 St. Peter's Road, just behind the existing lot. And just to quickly note as well, should this rezoning be approved, the subdivision proceed, and the proposed new dwelling proceed through the building and development permit process, there will be some review by the building officials of the proposed 6-foot side yard setback. There may be restrictions applied to the new dwelling, like limiting the number of unprotected openings along this facing facade, so the north elevation of the new dwelling. But again, that will be reviewed further by building officials at that point, subject to approval. In terms of parking, there is a requirement by the zoning bylaw that at least one parking space per dwelling unit be provided. And the property owner has confirmed that the proposed new single detached dwelling, they're currently looking to include an attached garage in that, and that the parking that's provided on the existing property serving the existing dwelling, that will be retained as well. So this would satisfy the parking requirement. And just finally to note that this application was circulated to other city departments for review as well. And just to note, Public Works has reviewed and expressed no concerns from a public right-of-way perspective with the proposal. The city's forestry and environmental officer has also reviewed the application, and they noted that no city-owned trees or heritage-designated trees were identified on this property. So no restrictions would apply in terms of tree removal to accommodate the proposed new single detached dwelling, and that's in keeping with the city's tree protection bylaw. Water and sewer utilities noted that in terms of the subdivision, services will need to be provided to each new lot, and service connections to one lot cannot cross the other separate lot unless there's registered private easements in place. So in the subdivision approval stage, that will be noted as requirements for approval. And then also the fire department reviewed, and from a fire access perspective, they expressed no concern because of the proximity, about 90 meters, to a turnaround facility at First Street and Hawthorne Avenue intersection. Considering these items, our department is recommending approval of the request to rezone from R2 to R1N to permit the subdivision into two separate lots, with one lot occupied by the existing dwelling and the other lot occupied by a proposed new single detached dwelling. So that concludes my presentation, folks. I welcome any questions or comments, and the property owner, I believe, is also on the line as well, if they wanted to share anything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Emily. I don't know if Alan's got anything to share or not. He's more than welcome. We had a good public meeting. We had a couple of residents shared some concern. It's in my ward. I thought it went very well. But Alan, you're more than welcome to say a few words.
Terry, it's Alex. Look, just be careful that after the public meeting, the applicant isn't supposed to speak, so I just don't want to complicate this application.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so he probably will be okay with that anyway.
I move to adopt.
So,
And I'll second.
Okay, it's moved by Mr. Mayor, seconded by Councillor McCabe, that we go ahead with 3 First Street for the rezoning. Okay, before we go any further, we're probably not going to make it to number 4 or into STRs. We'll have to postpone and pick it up again. But Councillor Bernard has been here the whole time. I thought if I can give him 5 minutes for his situation under new business. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll
I'm okay with it.
So, yeah, and then we'll set up a time to continue this meeting within a few days. Okay, Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have to vote, don't we, first? Did we already vote on First Street?
Yeah, maybe I did. Sorry. I'm trying to move this along. So all those in favor of 3 First Street rezoning? Okay, and anyone against? I see none. Yes. Thank you, Councillor McCabe, for keeping me on board. Thank you. Councillor Bernard, you're away.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and your members. As you know, I'm looking for a small ask here as part of our bylaw. I guess it's been around for a little while. It has to do with our bylaw on fences around pools. No issue with that at all. With new technology out there, and it's improving all the time, there's a lot of people interested in putting these hard pool covers over their pools. What I'm looking for is to not change the bylaw, just to add a variance, ability to have a variance added to it. So in certain situations, if we find the hard cover, pool cover works, then they have an opportunity to apply for that variance. Very similar to, you guys deal with variances all the time on homes, whether they move closer to the front lot or closer to the back lot or whatever. There is some situations that I think it would work good in. This particular one that we're talking about, she has over an acre of land. Her lot's over an acre. It's out in Bridle Path. So some people may be familiar with the subdivision in Bridle Path. They're all acre plus lots, and they're all tree lots. So what she's looking for, they're looking to build a pool this spring. She would like to abide by the bylaw. Now they haven't, like I say, the lots are all treed as is hers. So she would like to put in the hard cover pool cover, and her issue is safety. A lot of times, due to her work or her husband's work, they do leave for a week to 2 weeks at a time. This hard pool cover works very much like a garage door. You just press a button and it closes the pool. You press a button and it opens it. So anytime you're out in the yard and she wants to go in the house, she presses the button like a garage door would come down. This pool cover closes over it. Carries a lot of weight. There could be multiple people on the pool cover. And her neighbors are very much in favor of it. So I guess, it's great to put a fence up in her area, but when she's away for a week, the pool is wide open. There's nothing for kids to climb the fence or undo the latch, and they're in, and it's an open pool. So this has also got a code. So when they're away, there's no unlocking it. It's coded. So I'm thinking that the particular location, what I'm looking for is the ability for the residents of the city of Charlottetown in some situations to be able to apply for the variance on our bylaw that says you have to put a fence around a pool. There may be some situation that this hardcover pool cover works better. And in this particular situation, I can understand why she wants to do this. They're not cheap, but it certainly looks like it'd be much safer for her situation. And like I say, this, when you have a fence around it, that's great. So if you have subdivisions, that like Sherwood or Parkdale when we grew up, where all the yards are all adjoining each other, there's no trees, the kids can run from yard to yard. Yeah, I could see definitely having a fence. But in this particular location where they have over an acre of land, it's all wooded, and similar to the neighbors all around them, they've had conversations with their neighbors, and their neighbors are saying, yes, we agree with that. That's the best thing. I don't want my kids getting there sometime you guys are away for a week. So they can install that pool cover. It's a, what's it called? It's a Cover Star pool cover. You can look them up. You can see where they're hard. They hold a lot of weight. And like I say, they're remotely open and close. So there's no amount of time to close it. There's no amount of time to open it. And so I'm looking for the ability to put in that variance so they can apply, and then council can look at it and say that makes sense. Yes, we'll approve it for that location, or council says no, it's not going to work in that location. I mean, to me, with new technology changing all the time, I think the defense bylaw came in 25, 30 years ago. So I think it's an prudent thing to do is to give the opportunity each situation can be looked at in a one-off.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilor. This wouldn't be for the board's decision making at this point. It'll go to the planning committee, which we'll definitely put on our next committee meeting agenda for this month. And if it's the wish of that committee to go forward to council, then we'll go that route, and staff will have to do their part as well. But I think, isn't that right, Alex? I don't think.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So
what's the difference between planning committee and planning board? Only for the resident members.
Well, planning committee if you want to answer that, Alex, go ahead. You probably have a better answer than I do. But planning committee gives staff the recommendation to move forward, and then it goes to the planning board, and then on to council.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, if I could just interject,
sorry.
Yeah, I think Rosemary had her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Rosemary. I did not see.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I just wanted to make a comment, although I know we're not making any decisions here tonight, but there are many, many, many children on Bridle Path, and they do roam freely along that street. And, the hard surface cover sounds good. However, what if somebody forgets to close it and there's no fence? And human error is always a big concern. So I don't know if if I was making a decision on this, if I would be comfortable with saying that you don't need a fence, you just need to have this cover. People forget.
And just to answer that, because that did come up, and I guess the question is, well, what happens if I forget to close my gate? And the gate's open.
I think that's a different issue. I think what we're talking about here is a pool and a potential for drownings. And I think you just can't be too safe with young children.
Yeah. And that's why she wants to put our pool cover on.
If I may, guys, I'll cut the debate. We do have to go through another meeting. Councilor Bernard will bring it up at the committee level, and then on to staff to give their point of view, and then we'll go from there.
I think
I'm cutting out, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Councilor Bernard. Okay, folks, so we'll...
I think Alana had her hand up there, Terry.
Oh, sorry, Alana, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just one more observation. If this is going back to planning committee, I do believe that there was another one in the hopper, that could also fit under this criteria of Council Bernard's, of a unique situation. So perhaps when we're going back, I mean, if we could address both of those situations.
Well, the trouble is that one is a lengthy process that's already been sitting on the books for a long time, and I think we need to the bylaw is the bylaw, and we kind of discussed that the other day, that let's move forward with that. She can do the same. She can put in the request at the same time, and ask for the same idea, and the committee can deal with both.
Why not reach out to her and ask her to put in a request instead of giving her a letter that's been going on for 2 years now, just to give her an option to put in a letter.
Because you can't open up a request if the request isn't going to happen, right? Because the committee, we might say no, that's it. We're not going to open up the bylaw, or we might say yeah, but it might be 3 months from now, right?
And I think Carrie, I'm just looking for the opportunity to put in for the variance. I mean, in different situations, may not be. Now, I know Rosemary, this is what come up. She's right, in that first half of Bridle Path, I think there's 23 kids, 12 and under, and which is one of the reasons that this person wants to put the hardcover in. But I'm not looking for a decision on that. I'm just looking for a variance to be able to make a bylaw so people can apply, and then all those issues can be looked at and see if it makes sense or not.
Yeah, and that's why we have staff to to do their homework on it first, and I'm sure the committee will look at it seriously when we get together.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Thank you. So for now, I'm gonna ask for an adjournment, and Alex and Ellen can send us out a note when we can reconvene this meeting. Okay.
Well,
so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I guess we can't say adjourn. We'll suspend, I guess would be the proper word. Moved by Bob Kenny, seconded by Councilor McCabe. All those in favor? Everybody's good. Thank you very much, folks, for your time this evening, and Ellen and Alex will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.